Welcome everybody to the bridge again. Today we have the country of Finland. We are going to discuss about the Holokarma of nations. We have a special invitation. She is Melanie Messner. She's Austrian. She lives in Finland since 2011. She's a volunteer since 2012, a teacher since 2016, a trained German teacher and content producer of a Finnish educational technology company. So welcome, Melanie. Thank you for participating. And I would like to remember all of you that we are going to have 1 hour of a presentation, then 20 minutes of discussion, and then 10, more or less 15 minutes to do an energetic work, okay? Be free to do questions and let's start. Thank you, Melanie.
Okay, everyone. I just quickly was gone from the meeting, but now I'm back. I hope I will stay in the meeting. So yes, I'm really happy to present Finland today. I really think that the Bridge Cultures initiative is very important for us to understand each other a little bit better and our work in the international field of conscientiology a little bit better. So today I'm going to present Finland. I'm going to share my presentation with you now. I hope you can all see it.
We can see the presentation, but we cannot see you. Now we can see you. Okay, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So basically, I will go through as quickly as possible, so we have some time to also to discuss and ask questions. But of course, if there's like something that I say or where you have a question about something deeper, then I guess you can interrupt me or then ask after the presentation. I think both are fine. All right, so we're going today to talk about, well, first I'm going to introduce a few facts about Finland. I'm going to talk about the history, because that is an important aspect of the Holocene of a country. We're talking a little bit about the culture of Finnish people. I specifically put education here into this presentation as well, because it's a very important aspect of not only Finnish culture, but I think also its connection with conscientiology and also how the country is seen abroad. So we hear a lot about education in Finland, and I think it's going on. Like a lot of people think this is the best, most perfect education system on the planet, and I want to bring some clarification into this concept. I'm going to introduce also some other challenges in Finland, or that Finland as a country is dealing with. We're going to talk about the Holocene of Finland, my personal experiences, then some hypotheses that I have about Finland and connection with conscientiology, and then hopefully we're going to have a very interesting discussion. So for the facts, the population of Finland is at the moment 5.5 million. The capital city of Finland is Helsinki, so I am located in Helsinki. The currency we have is the euro because we're part of the European Union. Finland has gained its independence in 1917 from Russia. Then Finland joined the European Union in 1995. And the economy here is, well, pretty much industrialized and surprisingly has a similar output like the big countries of Europe, like France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, even though Finland itself is a very small country. And if you think about the population being only 5.5 million as 80 million in Germany, for example, this is a very impressive fact here. Another impressive fact is that basically Finland is the country of water. So there's like more than 100,000 lakes in Finland, and we have the longest shoreline, I think, of any country in the world, with 314,000 kilometers of shoreline. And to calculate that, it's 8 times around the Earth. So Finnish people are very connected with water, but we will get into that a little bit later. So if we look at the history, of course, this is very simplified here, this slide. The earliest written sources mentioning Finland go back to the 12th century, when the Catholic Church started gaining influence in Finland. In the 13th century, Finland got annexed basically to the Kingdom of Sweden and stayed as Swedish territory until 1809. So that's a long time of Swedish influence in the country. After the Finnish War between Sweden and Russia, the majority of Finland was ceded to the Russian Empire. So basically, the left neighbor of Finland lost in the war, and Finland went to the right neighbor of Finland, which is Russia, in 1809. In the 19th century, through the works of some important poets and writers, the Finnish nationalism emerged, like the Finnish identity started to manifest in Finland. People started realizing that they have a unique language to compare to Russia or to Sweden. They have unique traditions, folklore, mythology, and so on. So basically, 19th century, the first written works came out in Finland, and Finnish people started identifying themselves more with being Finnish than being Swedish or Russian. In 1917, Finland declared independence from Russia. In 1918, there was a big and dramatic civil war that lasted for 9 months. It's like a short time, but a lot of terrible things happened in that time, and the trauma of that civil war still goes on into modern day today. So basically, because Finnish people have never reigned themselves, they had severe difficulties finding an agreement of how to rule their own country after having always been a part of either the Swedish Empire or the Russian Empire. During the Second World War, Finland fought twice against the Soviet Union to firstly defend its independence and also to defend itself from the Soviet Union and also in the continuation war. It was something that was a consequence of the Second World War, but it was usually always in the defense position. So they did not attack another country, they usually defended themselves. And in 1995, Finland joined the European Union. So these are the most important highlights of the history. Culture, as you could guess for sure, Finns are really quiet and pragmatic people. They usually keep to themselves. So you will not see Finnish people on the street talking to strangers. So basically, they mind their own business. So they really, they perceive you, but they will not interact with you if they do not have a very important reason to do so. The other very interesting topic is sisu, which is the untranslatable word of the Finnish language. It describes a very deep and important strong trait of the Finnish people, which is something like determination and grit. So basically, the word sisu came up in the wars that followed the Second World War, that they prevailed against, a small army of Finnish people prevailed against the invading Soviet Union, which had 10 times or 100 times more soldiers and weapons and tanks. But many Finnish people say, oh, but thanks to sisu, we won that war. Sisu is determination, not giving up, really stubbornly holding on to something and not giving up. So we have another interesting word here, which is mökki. Mökki is a holiday home, like a little holiday cottage, which is incredibly important for Finnish people. There is more than 2 million, or I think around 2 million cottages in Finland that are basically located at the many lakes that there are in Finland. So every possible opportunity that Finnish people get, they go out to the countryside and they live in very basic conditions in this cottage. So basically you have the best cottage for Finnish people is no flowing water, no electricity, and they go back to this very almost primitive state where they have to get the wood from the forest to heat up the stove. They have to get the water from the lake and so on. This is like the dream holiday of Finnish people. Usually they're there for most of the summer, which only lasts for like months in Finland. And it's the highlight of the year, basically. This is they're waiting the whole winter for this, that they can go from the city to the countryside and spend their time in there. Which brings me to the next point. Finnish people are very deeply connected with nature here. Also in the capital city of Helsinki, you have so many parks. You have, of course, a lot of shoreline because we're hot. So people are outside. It doesn't matter the weather. They're outside if it's nice, and they're outside if the weather is horrible, minus 30 degrees, a blizzard going on. You will find people outside. So I noticed something very interesting with the years, that in winter, people, like the Finnish people, are even more like quiet, and they're even more distanced from each other. So basically everyone has the coat on and goes through the street, is not looking at anyone, is not talking with anyone, which of course is a survival measure, because if it's really cold outside, you need to cover your face. You don't have time for small talk because it's too cold outside. And then when spring comes, finally at the end of May, and there's the first nice and warm days, the first sunny days since months, people are going outside, they're smiling at everyone, they're greeting everyone, even though they don't know these people. They're chatty, they're cheery. So you can really observe and perceive the change of people, of the Finnish people, with the weather, with the seasons. So they're really connected to nature in this way. And I have not seen this in any other country before. Of course, winter, like people in Germany and Austria, they're also complaining about winter, but our winter there is like, it's nothing compared to Finland. So it's really interesting how to feel the energies of nature change with the seasons, and to see the energy of the people change with the seasons. So this is a rhythm here, like an energetic rhythm, or even a holothosenic rhythm here that goes basically with the climate, because it's so extreme here that people do not have a choice but to live by this cycle and to adapt to it in the best possible way. Additionally, Finnish people overall and Finnish society they're very punctual, like very punctual. If you meet with someone at 3 o'clock and you are not there at 3 and 1 minute, they will call you. They will call you. They are not waiting for 5 minutes. If you're not there 1 minute after 3, they will call you and ask if you're still coming. So this is something that as an Austrian I also have to get used to, because we Austrians are like, yeah, 10 minutes plus, it doesn't matter. But Finnish people, they plan something and they expect you to be punctual because they think it's very impolite if you are late. And that leads to organization. Finnish people are very organized. They organize their calendars like 2 months ahead. They are not really that spontaneous with their calendar. So, and they also don't like to change things. Like if something is agreed upon, they don't appreciate if it has to be changed. for whatever reason. At the same time, which is maybe you can see it as a paradox, but they are very innovative and very solution-oriented. So if there's a problem of some sort, the Finnish government finds a solution, writes it into the law, and that's it. They don't ask questions, they ask them later, which is a good thing because they act, but it's also a bad thing because sometimes they act without thinking. But this is a tendency here that I have not seen in other countries. Other countries, they discuss a lot. Oh, this is a problem. We need to solve the problem. How can we solve the problem? It's your fault. It's my fault. It's whatever. Here, usually, this is a problem for people. All right, let's do this immediately. Which, again, it turns out later if that actually was a good idea or not, because people don't think about it and they don't discuss it. So you can see that there's some like too much of a good thing. And also Finnish society follows Jante's law, which is a really interesting concept that some people of Conscientiology are already studying. So the law of Jante is basically conduct that is typically known in the Nordic countries and followed by in the Nordic countries. There are at least 10 points, I think, in the code. That basically this law of Jante is not a real law by a Danish Norwegian writer in one of his books. Basically, what he did was he just formulated some concepts of society already existed since a very long time. So what he did, he was the first one who formulated it as being the law of Jante, and wrote those 10 rules, basically. So one of the rules is, oh, you are not better than anyone else. Your achievement is not better than anyone else. You should not be proud of, or more proud of your achievement. So it's basically, you should not stand out in society. You should basically just mind your own business, be normal like everyone else, and don't act up in any way. Like if you have some talents, do not go around and talk about the talents. Do not say that you're good in something or whatever, because that might imply that you think other people are not good. So all of this, like, you can read those 10 points. I mean, the law of Jante would be an own presentation on itself. I could talk about it for an hour. But basically, this is something that can have good, in some way, good effects in society, because then we don't have this like a blind obedience to authority, for example. Jacqueline is asking if this means that Finns are less competitive. I think Finnish people are competitive, like especially when it comes to sports. They have ridiculous competitions, if you think about it. So they, for example, have the wife carrying competition. So the husband puts the wife over the shoulders, and then they run with it to the goal. They're very silly competitions, but I guess those come because people are bored in wintertime. They are competitive, but if they win, then they're like, oh, but that was nothing. Oh, I'm not really that good. This was just luck. They are never going to admit it was because of their own traits, of their strong traits, or because of their own talents, or because of their own hard work. So I would say, yes, they are competitive, at least as much as any other country, but they will not openly talk about their achievements ever. I made many times, I'm someone who pays compliments to people. I see strong traits, and then I say, hey, you're doing this, and they're like, oh, no, I'm not good at all. Like they start a fight, basically. They're like, they do not want to hear it, and they don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to take responsibility for their talents, for example, out of a fear that, of course, that someone thinks that they think they're better, or to make a mistake. If you say, oh, I'm good at this, but then you make a mistake, and they're like, oh, so you're not good at this. So it's this kind of like, they have a huge, there's a huge aversion to mistakes basically in the country. There's no space for that. So if you think about it, this comes from Finnish history and the Finnish climate as a necessity, because now we have the nice warm homes, we have internet connection, we have longer. But when Finland as a country was developing itself and fighting to become independent, back then it was a very poor country, and the Finnish winters were really harsh, talking about minus 30 degrees. So basically you didn't have the chance to make a mistake, because a mistake would kill you. If you're outside hunting in like 200 years ago, and it's minus 35 degrees, and you make a mistake, you die. This is just how it is. So basically, this fight for survival came into it was integrated in Finnish society. You cannot make a mistake because you'll die. Of course, nowadays that's more metaphorical, which means your reputation will die. Basically, no one will take you serious anymore. Things like this. So basically, this is an aspect of what the law of Shanta is also describing. And of course, like in Sweden and Norway, they have the same problems in winter. They have the same extreme climate. So now I want to talk a little bit about education, and I have adopted a little bit of a different how can I say, a kind of a different perspective this time for this presentation, because I know that many people from abroad, they're getting their news about Finland, or what they know about Finland, they get from media, from Facebook, from social media, from news sites. And usually media abroad shows you one thing. It shows you how amazing Finland is. It's a perfect country. It has the perfect education system. It's the least corrupt country. It's the happiest country. It is this, it is that. There's some truth to it, but there's also other things that abroad does not show. And this is why I'm going to have a more clarifying presentation today. And I'm going to show you clips, newspaper clips of Finnish media, to give you an insight of what is actually going on inside Finland. So here, this is some of the facts, and then also some of the the mythology. Oh, Finland gets top marks in education. For example, we had the PISA test, and Finland was so good in the PISA test. This created the myth that the education system here is amazing, and it's perfect, and there's no problems, which is not entirely true. So just to give you perspective, Finnish people are highly educated, most of them. If you look at the numbers here, you can see that the population aged 15 or over with an educational qualification beyond basic education is a total of 3.3 million. So if you think about it, there's 5.5 million people in Finland, and 3.3 million of them have a higher education than basic education. This is a lot for such a small country. There are a lot of people who have who go on to college, who go on to university. So here you can see here below, in Finland, 88% of adults aged 25 to 64 have completed upper secondary education, which is higher than the average of, I'm not sure if this is Europe or the world, but the average of 78%. So yes, the people in Finland are higher educated. They are more educated. Like, I think 80% of them move on to high school and graduate. 80% of all people. As of all students, every year, 80% go on from basic education to high school to get the matriculation examination. Half of those go on to university. So a highly educated person has a status in Finland. Like, it's a form of status, the higher your education you have. So this is something that is known outside of the borders of Finland, but then there is some truth that people abroad, they don't get to see that truth. So for example, the PISA test results were misunderstood widely, and the myth will not go away. So what the PISA results were measuring was not the quality of the education. It was basically how well students master the contents of school curricula, which does not say anything about the actual education system. Because if you have a country that is so well read and so well educated, even the parents of the children are very highly educated, they will do better in school because of cultural reasons. This has nothing to do with the education system per se or the quality of it. So this is something that is not reported widely. And it's important to if you really want to know about Finland, it's important to know this is also part of the reality. Here I have some headlines for you. You don't have to read anything or get the presentation afterwards, but here's just some things that I see outside of Finland, which is that we have big class sizes, too big. We have 30 students. We have, because people are so innovation and solution oriented, they throw everything in the curriculum. They have constant reform of the education system. Oh, we need to do everything digital. Oh, we need to only play games. It must be gamification in every classroom. Do not teach anymore normally, only games and digital devices. The problem is that people don't stop to think if this is actually a good thing. They just implement it. They do not train the teachers to basically adapt to these new things that they develop. They just require of you, oh, you're a teacher since 20 years, you have to do everything digital. But they do not train this teacher. So teachers get burnout. They cannot, like if you always feel like you cannot fulfill the curriculum, you cannot prepare the students in the way you have to because there's so much pressure politically on you, then there is a high chance of burnout and depression among teachers. So if you think about it, of all teacher trainees, of all people who train to be a teacher in any given year, half of those will quit in their first year of teaching. 50% of new teachers are stopping, and they have to stop.
Maybe.
Just thrown out.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see if the camera works.
Okay. Yes,
I don't know why. It just suddenly stops sometimes on the phone. I don't know why.
Okay. I think you can continue.
Okay. Well, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So then the other great idea was integration of special needs pupils into normal classrooms, which sounds like a great idea. But the problem is the teacher does not get any additional support to deal with special needs children. So they're just like, oh, we need to integrate these special needs children into normal classroom, but it has negative consequences on the other students and on the teacher. So here's some examples of teachers that had to stop, like long year teachers that because of the reform, the changes in the education system, they had to stop to work. Among those were burnout and fear, and really that was too much pressure. Basically, so the other thing is that the teacher authority in Finland is not great because everyone is saying, oh, you have to let the child do what it wants. So there's no respect for teachers in Finland. They're throwing away things, they are shouting at the teacher, and so on. So this is the reality of Finnish classrooms. This is the reality of this so-called amazing education system. It's still better than a lot of education systems in the world. But the thing is that I don't think it's the best. It's better, but it's not the best. And that's a huge difference. there's a lot of development that must happen here in Finland to support teachers and to not make this worse. Here's another slide. Not only teachers get burnout.
Melanie,
Yes?
sorry, you have a question. Flavia sends you a message in the chat.
Okay, let me see.
So like in Brazil?
Yes, so basically it's a good idea to, the idea itself is very ethical. Yes, of course we need to include the children into a normal environment. But the thing is, it does not negate their need that they need support, because it's going to be frustrating for the children if they're always behind in the normal class. And it's going to be frustrating for the teachers, because they cannot take care of all the needs. And it's frustrating for the normal children because they don't get any attention. If the teacher constantly has to be supporting the special needs children, then the other children who don't have special needs, they don't get enough. Well, also the empathic work, but I think that if you want this, I think the idea itself is good, but if you do this, you need more resources in the classroom. You need special needs teachers in that classroom with the normal teacher. You cannot just throw special needs children into a normal classroom and assume that everything's going to be fine. If you want to implement this idea, you as a government have to prepare more resources, more money, more funding, and more teachers for these classrooms. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Yet you can, as a teacher, you can have as much empathy as you want, but if you're overwhelmed with the tasks that you have in each classroom, then it's not going to help much. So let me see here. Any other question?
She wrote, this is another chat for you.
Yes. So yeah, it is a universal problem, of course. Finland is not like any kind of like special country that, oh, we have found a solution to everything. Yeah, in the media they present it that way, that, oh, we are so amazing and everything, we've solved all the problems. But truth is that it's very different from the media headlines. We're struggling with all the same challenges here. Some of them are better, some of them are worse. And because of this pressure also in Finnish society to be highly educated, kids are suffering. Like they're very stressed. They have burnout. They cannot concentrate on the kids as much as they want to the teachers, and the kids do not get the support they need. It doesn't matter if it's special needs or normal children. So they're stressed, they are overwhelmed, they have burnout. Recently, the University of Helsinki put out an article that, oh, we have found out half of our students have a burnout. Half. Can you imagine half of their students, of the whole university, have experienced burnout syndrome? This is something you don't see in the media, but this is a fact. To move on from the education, this is also a topic that we could also have our own discussion about it for 1 hour, but now I need to move on to some other facts that are not known about Finland. Other challenges that Finland is dealing with. For example, alcoholism. There are so many alcohol problems in Finland, so many people who turn to alcohol because of different reasons. Maybe because they're stressed, maybe because they're depressed, and so on and so forth. So one interesting fact I found out is that it's heavily, the alcohol here is heavily regulated by the government, which means if you go to the supermarket, you cannot buy anything stronger than beer. If you want to buy wine or anything more like vodka or schnapps or anything like that, you need to go to a store that's called Alko. Alko is owned by the government of Finland. It's a monopoly. It's the only store that is allowed to sell alcohol over 5.5%. And it's heavily taxed. Like, alcohol is very expensive, which means many people, they get in debt. They take credit so they can drink, which is a vicious cycle because it just gets worse and worse. So, and that's one thing. The government is, oh, but all this is tax money that we get and we put it back into society of all the people who are drinking. Then one day I checked the Wikipedia page because I was interested about the history of this company. And as you can see down below here, that same company that is nowadays selling the strong alcohol to the people, they were the ones who mass-produced Molotov cocktails for the Finnish military, producing 450,000 units of Molotov cocktails for the war. This is a company that actively created weapons for the war, and it's still, nowadays it changed its name after that, and it's nowadays still government-owned and selling alcohol to people. So, and again, as you can see here, there's a recent post here, Finland to raise 75 million by increasing alcohol and soft drink taxes in 2020. So it's constantly getting higher and higher and higher, and the government is getting more and more from this without solving the problem. Then we have the other challenge, which is gambling. There's so many people that are gambling addicted in Finland. Part of the reason for this is that in every supermarket, like in every grocery store, in every kiosk, in everything that sells something, you have a lot of gambling machines. You have all these machines where you can gamble, like in the casino. It's everywhere, in every supermarket. So even small children, for them, it's normal that you have these gambling machines all around you. I've never seen anything like this. I've never been in a country before that had gambling machines everywhere, in every little store, even if it's just a tiny corner store. There's gambling machines, at least 3 of them, everywhere. So for the people who are addicted to gambling, they cannot get out of this circle. It's not possible. And more and more people get exposed to it, and underage kids are gambling, even though officially it's illegal, but no one does anything against it because it's in every supermarket. How do you control that? And Veikkaus, which is the responsible company for it's a gambling monopoly, so the only ones who may offer gambling, they're owned by the Finnish government. And the Finnish government says, yes, we have many gambling machines, but all of the profits go back into society to help problems, to help people with addiction. Like, can you see this into the prison here? They're putting machines everywhere and more machines. And then they say, oh, but we're helping people with addictions. So it's like you want to have a drug addict and you're putting all the drugs in front of him all the time. So this is the problem. Like, people have now started to resist, finally. Also, Finnish people started understanding this is not good. So now we have up here this company will start, hopefully, removing these slot machines and gambling machines. Other problems there are, for example, with public services. So, for example, the mail service in Finland is also government owned. And basically what is happening here is that they decrease services. So, like, very normal mail services for old people, for normal people. They close all their shops. They want to do everything to do on the internet. They want to cut the wage of the normal workers, which is pretty low on average. They are not delivering mail at all on Tuesdays, so there's a lot of savings. And basically the scandal now broke. It's very new. It's in September now that this happened. they realized that the Posti CEO, so the manager of the Posti, is earning almost €1 million every year. 1 million euros. But they're doing all the savings. So this is something to think about. This is state-owned government. This is like the government is deciding these things. Other challenges that is not talked about, we have cases of modern-day slavery here, which there's more and more cases coming out. Thai berry pickers are coming every year to pick all the Finnish berries, which is a huge export fruit. They're being lured here in Finland with good promises, but they don't get any insurance. They don't get the promised wage and the salary that was promised to them. They have to take a loan so they can fly to Finland, but they do not get enough money to pay that loan back. They get very little money for what they do, which is illegal. There has been people dying in the forest, and so on. Finland is on average more racist than other EU countries, which maybe comes from them being so excluded from the rest of Europe. So they're very like in their own corner. We have people with opioid addictions because doctors here prescribe a lot of painkillers without actually looking at the people. So we have a lot of suicides. Because what people say along winters and stuff, I say they're emotionally repressed, but this is something we get into in a little bit. So as you can see, there are problems. Like this country is not perfect. There are a lot of challenges here, a lot of problems.
Okay.
Let's go to something more positive.
Thank you. Melanie, there's a question of Marcelo Pires about how to deal with alcohol and gambling using education as a tool.
Okay. I would suggest, because we don't have so much time left for the presentation, if it's okay for you, Marcelo, let's discuss this, okay, after the presentation, because this is a very interesting question, and I also would like to hear other people's opinions about this.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay.
Oh, okay, great. So let's talk about strong traits. Finland is the freest country in the world. Finland is the safest country in the world, which I have to say is true. Like when I went to Brazil and I was staying on the campus in the night and I heard gunshots outside, I was very shocked because I've never experienced anything like this. Like I didn't know this thing actually existed outside of movies. You can throw your bag with all the money on the street and no one will take it. People are that honest here. They're not stealing, they're not like trying to take something away. They're always, usually all the money and phones that people lose, it's all coming back. So as a woman walking in the night here, I'm not afraid. I feel safe. I don't have a problem. Because Finland is such an innovative country, you have a lot of startups here. So it's the 9th best country for startups in Europe. Because people are very open-minded to new ideas. So it's very easy to find funding for new ideas to start a company. Finland makes broadband illegal, right? So the internet connection here is amazing. And on average, it's actually cheaper than in other countries to get internet connection on the contract. With I think we have the fastest internet connection in all of Europe, basically. So everyone really is connected and can get all the information they want, which I think is a really great thing. Study showed Finland is one of the least corrupt countries in the world. I mean, sure, there's more countries, but after what we just read about the government, we need to be critical with this headline. Like, we need to have some critical thinking about this. So the other big strong trait is reading and libraries and books. Finnish people love reading, they love books, and they love libraries. I've never seen that phenomenon so strong like in Finland. So basically you have, in 2018, people loaned 84.5 million books. Just remember that this country has 5.5 million people, but they loaned 84.5 million books. This is huge. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, as a number, this is amazing. People, they just, books are part of their daily life. So as a part of this, being really into reading and into books, of course they have amazing libraries. Like, now we just have opened Oodi here in Helsinki, which is a gigantic library, and it costs 98 million euros. It's now open and everyone is welcome. So specifically their statement is everyone is welcome to this library to go there. So the library not only has books, but they have 3D printers, they have laser cutters. So if you have a hobby but you don't have the tool, you can go to the library and borrow the tool, and like basically to develop your hobbies there. You don't have to go there to read, but you can just go there and like fix your clothes, or, you know, make a piece of art. It's just inviting for everyone to go to the library, which is amazing. I've not seen this in any other country. Here to the side, we have our current Finnish president, Sauli Niinistö, and he basically, this picture is interesting because this represents the Finnish, like, humility. They're very, like even though he's the president, he doesn't have security, or he doesn't have special treatment. He goes with public transport, he sits there on the steps, no one has to make space for him, and he wouldn't want to take it. He wouldn't want to take space from anyone else. He just sees himself as a normal Finnish person and just has an important job, basically. But they don't, not even the president, think about it. The law of Shante is so ingrained in the Finnish culture that not even the president of Finland is like stepping up or like assuming, oh, I'm the president, I'm more important. Not even that. So this is, I think it's really interesting to see that. So per year, you have around 50 million physical library visits. So people actually going to the library. In the middle, we see here the Finnish Oodi. So this is, as you can see, this is huge. It's a huge building that stands in the heart of Helsinki. It has 3 floors, a cinema, around 300,000 books. And again, 3D printers, very modern machines that people don't have access to normally. So they can go there and use them for free. Here's just some pictures from another library in Finland, in Helsinki, another city. Small city. This here is Seinäjoki. It's a very small city north of Helsinki, like it's middle of Finland. Look at this, the size of this library, even though it's a very small city. But it's so important for Finnish people. They have these huge libraries everywhere, even in the small towns. So with this, I hope we built some kind of like ideas about the Holocene of Finland. Let me see about the time. Okay. So here's some pictures that I made with the years. We have pictures in winter where everything is like, basically if you can see here the trees that are not green, it's like this at least 6 months a year, like half a year, there is no green on the trees. So what I have perceived over the years, which is now almost 9 years, in the Holocene is that all Finnish people in general are really intelligent, they're well read, they're innovative, they're pragmatic, so there's not so much drama involved, no emotional drama or anything. They are open-minded, they're really organized, they're functional, they have a lot of neophilia, so it's like, oh, something new, I need to try it, I need to have it. We need to put it into the education, which can be a good thing, but needs to be like, there needs to be some critical thinking involved. They're close to nature, and of course close to immanent energies. freedom of thought. I think because in Finland, because it's such a new country and people are so open-minded, you yourself can have a freedom of thought, and also other people have freedom of thought there. So basically the freedom to develop new ideas also. So they're solution-oriented, and all immanent energies, there's such an abundance of immanent energies here, hydro energy, phyto energy, and so on. Weak traits, for example, will be they're really rigid, like they don't want to change. If they've set on something, they don't want to change it. So no flexibility, they're quite distant to the people. So a couple is married since 10 years, they probably will have never said I love you to each other because people think that is unnecessary. So I've also seen a lack of empathy, low emotional intelligence. So there's like a lack of expression, a lack of vocabulary to describe emotions. It's also that they don't want to, but if they want to, they cannot describe it. They don't have these words to describe what they feel. As a consequence of this, of course, they're emotionally repressed. So they do not express, they do not complain. It's inside of them, and it builds up inside of them. And then you have alcoholism as a consequence, you have depression as a consequence, and you have suicide as a consequence. Lack of responsibility, because they do not want to assume their strong traits, of which they have many. They are often blindly obedient to the law or to what is written on paper. So if there's like, oh, but here on the paper it says this, but there's like a person standing in front of them saying, yeah, but it has changed. They cannot deal with this. They always follow what is on the paper. Lack of critical thinking. That is something like here we can see these two sides opposed to each other, which in many ways, if you look at the history and the climate, you can see these as a consequence, as a natural consequence. Shortly, my personal experience in Finland, my emotions after 9 years vary from, this is the best place to be, which usually is in summer when it has 25 degrees and it's nice outside. But if you have a long Finnish winter with minus 25 degrees, I'm thinking like, why did I move here? Really, why? I cannot understand. So here is a typical picture of me in the winter time. I have 4 layers of clothes on me, and I cannot uncover my face because otherwise my face, like I would have freezing points on the face. Here's my balcony, a typical winter that basically, like this snow here, it just basically goes almost up until the window. So it's that much snow every winter. The Finnish language is a challenge and needs a lot of energy and mental capacity to deal with the language and to study in the language and to live in a society and use the language. So I think this picture here was really accurate of how it is like. Basically a short time span of my history with Finland, which basically in 2003, when I was 12 years old, I had the idea, I need to go to Finland. This is my country. I need to go there. In around 2006, 2007, the motivation grew so big to go to Finland that it actually helped me to have out-of-body experiences. Because my idea was, oh, I can go for free to Finland in an out-of-body experience. Like, I don't need permission from my parents. I can go out-of-body. So this was my first contact with OBEs and extra physical dimensions. In 2008 was my first visit, and I immediately had the feeling of, this is home. I finally arrived at the place I was supposed to be. In 2011, I moved to Finland. I had gotten a job. I was 19 years old. In the year after that, I had my first contact with Conscientiology, with an introductory lecture and a bioenergy workshop. And at that point, I already knew that Conscientiology, that's what I was waiting for, basically. I knew I was ready for all this OBE and consciousness development, and then 1 week later, I saw there was an event in Conscientiology in Helsinki, and I was there. And in the introduction event, I told to Patricia that, oh, I want to volunteer. I'm here to volunteer already. So, and then everything happened very quickly. Basically, in 2013, I made the advanced 1 and 2 courses. Everything was very packed together. So in these years, I recycled so many things at once. My head was spinning. I had my first recognitions. I found part of the evolutionary group. All of this basically continued to me discovering the part of my existential program. In 2016, I graduated as a Conscientiology teacher. I finished my Finnish high school degree here. So basically, as I got more involved in Conscientiology, I also at the same time parallel got more involved in Finnish society and so on. 2018, I found the first physical evidence of an extra physical community in Finland. Theory I had for many years already. And this year, hopefully, I'm still going to finish my bachelor degree and the teacher training here as not the Conscientiology teacher training, but the actual Finnish teacher training. So I will be a qualified teacher to work in schools. I think that for me it was planned. I think I planned in the intimacy, of course, to go to Finland because of several reasons. To basically prepare for the Proexis, for the execution phase of my Proexis, due to the fact that you have a greater freedom of thought to manifest response in Finland than in Austria in comparison. I found important people of my evolutionary group here that either resonated here or also decided to move here at some point. I realized that education was an important part of my Proexis and I might not have discovered in another country because the discussion of education is not so big in other countries. Conscientiology was not in Austria. We had the first Conscientiology events this year in Austria where I give courses, but back then it was not present. So basically my only chance was to go to Finland and find Conscientiology. I think here there's more freedom to develop and manifest the mental soma, which is important if you're working with Conscientiology. As an advantage, because of the resolution influence here, I have become more organized, more punctual, and more pragmatic in Finland here, just as an influence from society. Sorry, as a negative consequence, you could say I'm more introvert. I'm physically more exhausted due to the extreme weather changes and challenges. Like it needs smart organization to be able to go outside in the winter. You need like half an hour to put all the clothes on. So if you meet someone, you need to calculate the half an hour into the schedule. The food is less nutritious. So for example, vegetables and fruit comes from abroad because we can't grow it or like very little of it. So most time through the year, we get all the raw food, basically the raw fruit and the raw vegetables. And I've experienced that I had certain lack in my blood tests, for example, and I need to take pill supplements to deal with this. So yeah, I think that right now, like Finland is part of my preparation phase. Also due to cleanup polycom of the country, we have seen in the history, Finland has never attacked anyone. So you can say it doesn't have blood on its hands as other countries do. For example, Austria, which was involved in both and partly responsible for both world wars. There's a huge difference in the whole of the scene. I think that I need to prepare here to get stronger, to build authority, to go to Austria and do assistance there. I could not have done it if I would have stayed in Austria. I would not have this freedom to develop myself and my role of the Proexis. I have not only an affinity to Finland, but to Europe in general, to the European idea of the European Union of being united in diversity, which you can consider as the first manifestation of the world state. There's my theory of extra physical community in Finland. And I think I've spent part of my intermissive course there, so which of course explains another connection I have to this country. There is a potential connection to EM through the hydro energy, which means in my research of retrocognitions, I realized that I've spent most of past lives, I've all spent them close to water.
Explain a little who is EM, please.
Oh, so EM was the consciousness that stayed with Waldo for how many years? Like many years. And Waldo was basically the pre-mother to EM. So EM was a helper first. He was helping with events. He was like helping Waldo with events, with assistance. And at some point, EM knew that he has to be reborn. So he is like an extraterrestrial consciousness from another planet. So his form and his shape of his psychosoma was very different, or was very different to our human psychosoma. So it would create huge difficulties to just be reborn in the human body because of paragenetics and so on. So what happened is basically that Waldo helped EM to adapt to the human body with a benign semi-possession. And so EM could also study the human body then through Waldo, through many years. And Waldo helped him resonate on this planet, on our planet for the first time. And according to Waldo, EM resonated in Finland. So the other information we have is that EM lived on a water planet, and the connection here is that because there is so much water in Finland, like the huge shoreline, so many lakes, it's close to what EM was used to, so which would hopefully make the transition for him, this like first experience on Earth, a little easier. So I think that also because I have this strong affinity to water, and because of retrocognitions I had also of the intermissive course, where I studied more my the extra physical lives that are not the past lives that are longer ago. And I saw this huge world map. Basically, I had worked on the intermissive course, and I had put like red dots into each country and city where I used to live. So this was part of my research in the intermissive course, and all of these dots, these red dots, they were all on the shoreline. They were all on the coast or close to water. I think there's history and water, and maybe I've also come, who knows from where, but it's a pattern with me too. And the water and the hydro energy was a big reason for me to want to come to Finland, because I have such a huge affinity with this energy. And lastly, an important part of my evolutionary group has resonated or moved to Finland. So I've identified and had recognitions with quite many people that I've met here in Finland, that if I wouldn't have come here, I would not have met them, and they would have not developed the ideas that I developed until now. So here's the last slide for also for questions to discuss a little bit. This is what I've identified as to be the existential needs in Finland generally, and also what we could do in Conscientiology in the best case. Of course, we need to talk about emotional maturity and de-repression. I think this is the first thing, that if you come to Finland as Conscientiology teachers, or when we bring, then maybe these topics of emotional maturity and de-repression are really important as a first step to make material available, to make courses available, to make books available to deal with this topic. This is very important, very critical. Of course, they need to start to learn to assume the strong traits, because they have many strong traits. They're just not admitting to them, and they're not using them and applying them. Of course, clarification, demystifying of topics like bioenergies. They do feel bioenergies. Many people, even the ones that are very academic, if you talk about energies of nature, they understand innately, because they have this strong connection. It would be nice if you could have a reliable source of English material for self-research, because the Finnish people love to read, right? A lot of books, they love to read. So the more books we have for them, the better. Of course, regular activities, because the Finnish people are so organized and they're also so rigid that they need the repetition, they need the regularity. We cannot come in 1 year here with 3 courses and then there's 3 years where we don't have a course. These people will not stay. They will not stay interested. Go search for something else. And we need people who are interested in Finland, who want to come here to really study Finnish people and the country, to understand these needs, to understand also the not so good, the negative things I just showed you here in the presentation. This is also part of the problem. This is part of reality. This is part of the paratroposphere. If we're thinking about gambling addicts, if we're thinking about suicides, alcohol addicts, if you think about the real backs, this is something that we need to look at it honestly and stop with this myth that is the perfect country. Yes, this was it. Thank you. If we have time still, please let's discuss a little bit. Let's ask questions. I'm sorry I was over time. I really tried to be quick, but yeah.
Okay, I think we have a space for one or two questions, maybe. I think Jacqueline wanted to do a question, and Marcelo just made a question about gambling.
Let me see.
Well,
Let
Jacqueline.
me see the chat.
Okay. Would talk.
So basically, how to deal with alcohol and gambling. The thing is that people need to recognize that this is a problem. And first of all, we need to recognize that it's a problem that the government is creating and maintaining. So yes, we can, what I think we can do with education is to teach critical thinking. To really, because our education system, because of this myth, because we get so much positive press, people are like, oh, but you know, we're perfect. Everything is perfect here. We don't need to change. Like how we've been doing it, this is good. So the thing is that there's a lack of critical thinking, a lack of objectivity that you also see inside the classroom. I've been shocked at times when I was in the Finnish teacher training, where they're training all the other Finnish teachers. There is no space for critical thinking. There is no space for own ideas. They tell you you need to do all the digitalization, all the gamification, all the new things. They don't tell you how, and they don't accept any other opinion. I sometimes got in a lot of discussions with teachers because they would not expect or accept that I had a different opinion. So what we need, first and foremost, is really this kind of critical thinking, objectivity, realizing yes, there are problems, and because the government will not change as long as the people do not realize it's the government who does things wrong. Because they have all control, right? They cannot even come in another company to change things because it's a monopoly with the gambling and with the alcohol. So it needs to, that Finnish people wake up, that they have to wake up and be critical about what's happening, that they don't live in this paradise they think they live. Apparently, they are quite ahead from the rest of Europe because we're in this corner. And like, yes, education is useful, but you have to develop critical thinking first. So let me see.
Okay, Melanie, I actually, my more important question is, which group karmic phase do you think the Finnish people are in? For example, group karmic into prison, victimization, recomposition. Do you have any idea what you think your hypothesis is?
I mean, what's happening now, what I've seen actually this year coming up more, also in the headlines, is that people start becoming a little critical, like about things. So now when we find out these things, oh, you know, the CEO of the mail services is earning €1 million, and they're not like, they take away services from people, while other people are earning more and more and more money. They realize that there's corruption going on. So we have now, basically only in this year, that we really have started discussion about all three government monopolies that I've been talking about. So the problem is still exists, and it will exist for several years. So it's really hard. I would think somewhere in between. I think that the recomposition starts. It's starting slowly.
Because it seems like from what you said, Finland wasn't involved in any wars or like the recently, right? And
it was involved, but it didn't start it. It defended its territory.
I see.
So it doesn't. I think it doesn't have so much group karma with or polykarma with other countries, but it has a lot of group karma with itself due to the civil war, which was very bloody. It was very horrible, and Finnish people until today are still traumatized of the horrible things that people did to each other within the country. So there's these two processes, this opening up to other countries, which that they joined the European Union in 1995. That was an important step because they had basically no foreigners before that. They were only Finnish people. So now it's like, so they're opening themselves up to other countries while processing the things they have to process within the country. What do we have here? Jan is asking. Yes, we had a big group of people that were interested in Conscientiology, but they have been going away with the years. I don't have contact anymore to really any of them because of the reason that sometimes we have 3 courses 1 year and sometimes we don't have any courses for like a long time. And the people here have this need to, if they start something, then they commit to it. But if we cannot be committed to the people, to deliver courses, to bring them new things, to give them to self-research, they will go somewhere else. They will go to meditation courses. They will go to yoga. They will go to something else. So the key is consistency. We need to start developing regular events, something they can rely on in their self-development, and we need to really give them material that they can self-research. They love to read, it's not about that, but they don't have anything, or they have very little things. Because a lot of, like, we had this group, they have done the basic course, but there's nothing beyond that. So the problem is that most of the time, because consistency was lacking, and sometimes the methodology was not as it should have been in this country because it's so different from all the other countries, people have been going away. They have lost interest. Christoph asks, do you think that the cold climate and the low emphasis on emotions contributes to people in general being clearer on the mental level? I mean, the thing is, if you have minus 30 degrees outside, you have to mind, because if you're not lucid, layers, like, the thing is, if it's minus 30 degrees outside, it doesn't matter how many layers you have on. If you are outside too long, you're going to have injuries of freezing, or you have frozen to death. Like, you need to be I mean, sure, if you have a low emphasis on emotions, sure, because if the psychosoma goes haywire, then of course your mental soma is not clear. But the problem is that because they are so rational and so pragmatic, they do not pay attention to emotions at all. Like, they sometimes deny to have emotions. For example, I was in a au pair family, and the dad of the mother died suddenly, unexpectedly. The police came to our door and said that he died. They found him. She refused to cry. She refused to cry. She refused to feel emotional about it. Of course, on the next, she wanted to go to work on the next day, and the company had to send her home and said, "No, you're not going to work. Your father just died." And they sent flowers for her, and she was upset with the company for having sent her flowers, and then she started to cry. Then she had a breakdown. But it's going to this very unhealthy and pathological level of not acknowledging the existence of emotions, that they can be part of daily life. So, as I said before, of course, it's good to have a clear mental soma, but it cannot be on the expense of being extremely repressed emotionally and barely acknowledging the existence of your psychosoma.
Exactly. I think there's no balance between mental soma and psychosoma. They need to develop.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
somas. I think John wants to do the last questions. John, do you want to say something, or it's okay? Yes. So if you want, we can start the energetic work, please.
Okay. Good. So I ask everyone to, well, if you want to dim the lights a little bit and to get comfortable in your chair, to relax. Just take a couple of deep breaths, lean back in your chair, close your eyes, start calming down your thoughts, and try to switch your attention to your energies from your physical body. Then slowly start accumulating energy on the top of your head. Use your willpower to gather as many energies as possible on the top of your head. And once you have accumulated as many energies as you can start moving the energies downwards through your body to the feet. And once the energies reach your feet, move them back up to your head. And once they've reached your head, back down to the feet. Maintain the continuous movement of your energies throughout your whole body. And then slowly, in your own rhythm, start accelerating these energies. And through your will, start moving the energies faster and faster throughout your whole body until you reach the vibrational state. Try to perceive the quality of your vibrational state. And now let's slowly stop the vibrational state, but stay relaxed. Now we're going to send out the energies from our body. Going to exteriorize our energies throughout our whole body into the field of this presentation. Try to perceive how your energetic field is expanding. Now let's slowly stop this movement. Stay relaxed but lucid. Now we're going to absorb the energies from the field throughout all of our energosoma. Try to perceive the quality of the energies. Or any ideas or thoughts. Now we can make a mental note of all perceptions, ideas, or thoughts, and slowly stop the movement. Then we can come back to the physical body, make small movements, open your eyes. Is everyone okay?
Yes, here
I
we
only
are.
can see Virginia and Jacqueline. I cannot see the others. There's Jan. Hello.
Anna,
Yes.
Hannah, it's okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Christoph says he's okay. There's Marcelo. Hey. Great. So, were there any comments, perceptions on the energy exercise?
Someone wants to say something? Here it was very interesting, the field in this room.
Okay.
Very
Do you want
quiet.
to tell us about it?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us, Virginia? What was interesting?
Marcelo, you can talk.
Yes, I felt the same, Virginia. The field was very interesting. It was very strong. I think that very peaceful field. One thing that came to my mind during the energy exercise, it was about the subject that you raised during your presentation about the courses, okay, of having Conscientiology courses that you have from time to time 1 or 2 or 3 or nothing. And what came to my mind, it was something about, besides courses activity, to have what Waldo called it in the past, I think that was conscious circle or something like that, where it's groups of studies that you keep all year long with the people that get interesting in the subject. Okay, so that's something that came to my mind and something that I've been thinking about it in recently too.
Okay, that's very interesting. I think that, I think I know what you're talking about because I'm not Brazilian. I don't have the details on how the sessions were going on, but it's an interesting idea. I think one thing that we have to consider is that if we don't have English material of certain topics, then the research circles are a challenge too. So
yeah, that's, you need to keep working on that.
Of course, we have we have some books now that are in English, but basically the difficulty was always that if some people were more interested in a specific topic, right? If they wanted to go deeper into a sub-discipline of conscientiology, then already the English material stopped. So this is the only challenge I see with it, but it's still a good idea now to maintain the contact.
Thinking about the group, not only about the consumer, but a producer of materials. Several self-research of
that's a good point.
People, conscious, okay, provide additional material from a different perspective to conscientiology.
That sounds really interesting. Thank you for the idea.
I felt also very peaceful energies, and I had ectoplasma processes, and I was thinking about or feeling of the seaside from your first photo you have made in your presentation. I was there when it was winter, and I felt the sea. It was very, very nice to have that feeling. And I was thinking about the extra physical team, how it is working with a group in Finland, and I think it's easy to connect with the extra physical team. I felt before this class in some dynamics a very strong energy, I think from a very high involved consciousness who's working from the North Pole with the energies of the ice, and it's coming to Finland, and from Finland to Europe to help with the reurbanization. And I try to make a connection with that field, and it's starting that I can feel this process. I think we have a good helper team working there.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone? Okay, I think there's no more questions or people who wants to talk. So I think we can finish here because we finished our time. I would like to thank you for your presentation. Would you like to tell us something? Congratulations for your presentation. It was really good. Melanie, do you want to tell us something? Any message to finish?
Well, thank you all for being here, for having the patience with me to go over time again. I hope it was interesting and a little bit also clarifying from the usual Finland is the best thing in the world mythology. So we bring a little bit more reality into this, and maybe a little bit more understanding of the actual processes that we are all involved in. If any of you has more specific questions regarding the education system or to try to understand an issue a little better, please feel free to write me an email. We can for sure continue the conversation. Of course, also if you have ideas that, hey, you guys could try this, or, you know, let's do a course together there, or let's do an online activity, or anything, like any kind of idea that comes to mind with this, then please, by all means. And of course, if you have questions about another country, for example, Austria, which is my home country, you can also ask there, because it's basically the extreme opposite of Finland.
Maybe next year you can present
Yep.
about Austria, if you want.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So you are
All right.
you'll be one of the presentations about next year. Okay, so I would like to remember that next month we have another country, Australia, and 27th of October with Jacqueline Cohen. So we'll continue discussing the countries until November. Okay, so thank you very much to all the participants, and we'll see you next month. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yodos.